Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Hurry Up. I am your host, Adam. Woo! Let's get into this. We are 4-1, right? Repeat that with me. We are 4-1. Okay? We went over to London, where the NFL is trying to have international games. I'm probably going to try to put a team over there. I would not be surprised if there's a team that ends up in London at some point. But we went over there against a team that we found similar to us, better than us. One of the teams that we deem, or at least I deemed, representing the NFC in the playoffs later on. And we beat them. Not in a bad way or good way. We came back from a 20-3 deficit. Well, technically 20-10 deficit. We were down 20-10. When you first watched this game, you thought it was going to be a smoke show. They came out, they moved the football, they got their field goals, they were laissez-faire. They went into halftime, they did nothing at halftime. They came out there and they thought, we're the Green Bay Packers. This is the New York Giants. We're going to lose. Well, guess what? The Giants kept fighting because their coach made adjustments. Their defensive coach made adjustments. Players believe, buy in. This is what happens when you have a team that believes in its coaching staff. Last year, I was told they were playing hard for the guy. No, this is what playing hard for your coach is. The Giants would have went down. They would have went down. They would have went down swinging. And hey, listen, it was, for a while it was like it was in peril because they tied the game up and then they went downfield and scored a touchdown, and then the Packers got it with like 4 minutes to go, and you're like, oh, here we go. And the Packers moved the ball with inside the red zone, but the second best red zone defense came up, and guess what they did? They went after Aaron Rodgers, which I don't even know what he was doing on that play because he had Dobson open on the other side. Like literally on the other side for the first down, possibly touchdown. And he's trying to go to Allen Lazard on some corner. No, take the easy money. He went for the hard money. McKinney and Love came in there and shut him down. Kayvon Thibodeau had a big stop at the end of the game. This team is playing with heart. I love the direction of this team. It's finally a direction I can get behind. And hey, this is what Brian Daboll was inherited, and he's making chicken soup out of chicken shit. And he's got one superstar player and everybody else. And I'll give hats off to Daniel. He had a good game. He had a game where he needed to have. He had a game that he needed to have. He had a game that showed the fan base and myself that, hey, maybe he's competent enough to be here long term. Now, I'm going to stay on my side of the line and say, and be true to what I did, because I don't want to flip-flop on you guys. I still think you can get better and upgrade. Right now, the Giants probably won't be able to make that upgrade, at least this year, at quarterback, maybe. Depending, we still have a long season. Who knows what could happen. But, I do believe they'll bring a quarterback in because there's so many in this draft. You might want to just grab one for the future. Who knows? Tyrod Taylor ain't going to be playing here that long, and Davis Webb is Davis Webb. So, Daniel Jones sometimes gets injured, and that's going across the league, not just him, but that's across the league. Now with these running quarterbacks, you're going to need a capable backup and a guy that does similar skill sets. Someone said it last week. It's hard to find a quarterback that does the same thing as your backup quarterback. Well, that's what Tyrod did. But hey, hats off to Daniel. Heck of a game for him. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what I mean by using Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton, 79 yards. Didn't have a touchdown. He didn't get a touchdown put in, but they did enough to win the game offensively in the passing game. Now, I had a conversation with a couple people, and they were like, well, he can't run, so, but I'm like, he brought here to be a runner. That's not what his job was. That wasn't his MO. It wasn't like Lamar Jackson, who came in and his strength was running the football and it was a passer. No, Daniel was a passer and then a runner. We utilized his skill set to offset some of the deficiencies he had with passing the football. Now you can see what happens when you use cross routes, rub routes, and all this stuff, and you have a competent receiver out there. Right? It's not like they went out with a receiving core that was great. They went out with guys who were in the NFL and performed and made plays. Like David Sills, tight roping down the sideline. That's a play. Admirable play. Can we get better? Yes. Well, you always want to get better. That's what happens. Look at what happened with the Green Bay Packers. They lost Davante Adams, and you can start to see what's happening with that team. They don't have a lot of confidence in their guys. With Aaron Rodgers, they had a players-only meeting. because they got beat. You know why they got beat? Because they thought they were facing the New England Patriots again, and they were just going to go down there. Aaron Rodgers was going to pull them out of the fire, pull their ass out of the fire again. They were going to kick a field goal and win this game and be 4-1, and we'd be 3-2. Guess what? Didn't happen. So Yeoman's effort, this coaching staff has done a great job with what they got. You know, they're overachieving these guys, you know, taking guys that shouldn't be doing well and putting them in positions. By the way, Jalen Smith, hats off to you, man, because you made Tay Crowder better in that Bears game, but you brought the lumber. You were hitting guys all over the field last week. And I can't wait to see him, Landon Collins, and Tay Crowder get into the rotation, because I think what Landon Collins is going to bring is what Dane Belton is missing. And I think Dane Belton is not always assignment sound. And you can bring in a guy like Landon Collins who can play that nickel linebacker for you, and you can keep Jalen Smith on there. He can also play a linebacker for you. I think he's better. I think they're better equipped now to play the Ravens. Guess who's going to be spying Lamar Jackson next week? And trust me, there will be a spy. The Bengals last night put a spy on Lamar Jackson. It helped. It really did help. But it also helped that, you know, Lamar Jackson missed some throws as well. And listen, everyone's going to miss throws. That's what's going to happen. He's going to miss throws. The ability to carry your team is what you're looking for. That's what Daniel did. He carried his team when his running back went out. So those two complement each other pretty nicely. I'm starting to believe that people are going to start to legitimize Daniel Jones. He didn't have great numbers, but he had enough to win the game. Finally threw for 200 yards. Again, no touchdowns, but he played a clean game. He got a couple of fumbles. He had a fumble that was taken back due to penalty. He had a couple other sack fumbles that were taken back due to penalty. And this Packer team did not play fierce on defense. I thought they would have brought a little bit more blitzing. They kind of let him sit back there and do what he had to do. If I had a mobile quarterback guy who's a bum knee, I'm bringing the heat. And obviously Daniel's not fully injured because they were doing designed runs for him. But I will say this. Can you slide, please? Can you slide? This guy's hitting him in the head, in the neck area, you know, while he's going down. And there's going to be a guy, I'm telling you, there's going to be a guy, whether it's on the Ravens, whether it's on another one of these teams that we face, the Cowboys, come Thanksgiving, that's going to say, you want to stick your neck out there? I'm going to flap this wing right in there and see what I can do. You know what I mean? Boom! You know, so people are going to try to do it. Listen, this is the NFL. It stands for not for long. They're going to try to figure it out. Daniel's a tough kid, but sometimes we take his toughness for granted. You know, and I think sometimes he takes his toughness for granted. You still are a human being, and these still are guys who are coming to get you, and they did crush him a couple times. He got beaten up in this game. It was good to see him get off the mat and keep going. But hey, again, hats off to Daniel. Again, like I said, to you guys, I'm not going to flip-flop. Until he's extended and he's the Giants quarterback, I'm going to sit here and say, you know, we could always upgrade and there'll always be new things. Now, the Giants, like I said, are overachieving this season. Next year, the schedule is going to get harder. The more you win, the harder the schedule gets. And right now, people are like, oh, we have to beat the Ravens. No, we have to beat the Cowboys and the Eagles. I ain't worried about the Ravens. We lose to the Ravens, it's going to suck. But you move on, you go on, and you beat the teams in your division. In your conference, because that's what's eventually going to get you to the playoffs. So right now, it's looking like 3 teams from the NFC East can go to the playoffs. Again, a long season. Still got 12 games to go. You know, a lot can happen. A lot of these teams that are 2-2, that went to 3-2, that are starting to climb the ladder a little bit, these are what's going to happen. You're going to see some of these games. Now the Giants have a bullseye on their back, not only by the Eagles and the Cowboys, who, by the way, play next week, probably for the division. Whoever wins that game, you know, if the Cowboys win that game, and let's say the Giants lose, right? Then it's going to be tough sledding for the Giants to win the division. If the Giants beat the Ravens, the Cowboys beat the Eagles, it's a 3-way tie for first place, and it's going to be one hell of a ride. We finally have we're going to have a season well into October and definitely into November. These next few games are critical. We can't let up the gas. We stole one from Green Bay. We played it. We rose to the occasion. We beat them. Now we have a team that's coming in here off an emotional win walk-off field goal. They're gonna be familiar with our defense, regardless of if you want to believe that. Lamar Jackson has played against this defense, so I'm sure they'll have some ways to attack this defense. So it'll be an interesting matchup this week to see what the Ravens will be able to do. It's the most explosive offense we've seen. Let's hope we get Leo Williams back, because clearly we need him for the run game. The Packers, it's funny. These coaches, they outcoach themselves sometimes. That's what I like about Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale. They don't outcoach themselves. If it works, they just keep using it until you either stop it or come up with some, you beat it. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Green Bay Packers got the ball a couple times and they punted because they went 3 and out because they did 3 deep passes, 3 passes in a row on two possessions. So 6 plays where they just went through the ball. And I'm like, why would you do that when your running game is working? That's your strength. Not even a play action pass. And then you're going to play action pass on some of them and still go deep. And I'm like, why don't you just get the first down, get the chunk yard? Because what happened in the first play of the game? First play of the game, they get the ball, right? They're closed. The walls are closing in on Aaron Rodgers. And what does he do? He does a little, shimmy shock. I don't even know what that was. Like this. Finds a hole in the pocket and makes a throw to Randall Cobb. Amazing throw to Randall Cobb through like 10 people. I thought it was picked off at one point. You're like, whoa, what happened here? Mere inches away. And then he gets a 35-yard pass play. And then in the middle of the third quarter, you get the ball back in the third quarter after your defense forces a punt. You get the ball back, and in 3 plays, you just go out. That's what happens. Is you let the Giants hang around. This is a team now that's going to kick the door in on you. They're going to kick the door in on you. If you want to beat the Giants, you got to bury them. Because if you give them any form of life support, they're going to keep fighting. And that's what they did. They didn't get many turnovers, but what they did was, and I think this is more key than turnovers. Turnovers work if you are a bend but don't break defense and you're giving up on third down, you have a good pass rush. This Giants is just a solidly coached unit across the board. They play their assignments sound. But what they do is they get off the field on third down. No matter if it's 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 8, they get off the field. They may not get a lot of pass rush, and that's not their MO right now. Their MO is they blitz and they do get to the quarterback, but they're all about pressure. They're all about pressure breaks pipes. That's what they're burst pipes. That's what they're on. They may not have the sack numbers that you want. And Wink Martindale has had that. His defense doesn't have a huge sacker in it. They never really had. I mean, they did when they had Terrell Suggs and those guys, but when those guys left, Matthew Judons of the world, they didn't really get double digits. They just had sacks across the board because they blitzed. Well, the defense they're playing now is a zone defense, and zone defense is what gives Jones a little trouble. So we'll see what happens here, especially with these guys underneath. They're probably going to try to make the Giants methodically move down the field. But hey, we are 4-1. The NFL better take notice because we ain't going nowhere. Okay, this team is only going up. But next year's we shouldn't talk about next year. But if you sign these 2 guys, let's say you sign Jones and Barkley, because you got to sign at least one of them. One of them is going to be more expensive. It's going to eat up a lot of your cap. I know people don't want to talk about that, but it will eat up a lot of your cap, which means now you have to hit on your draft picks. So there's I'm not saying there's a lot of give and take. We'll see what happens financially. And not to mention, you want a bona fide number 1 coming in. So, and you may not get that right away with a receiver out the gate. You may want to try somebody else who's a budding star or who may be coming out. We'll see. This whole roster is going to be changed next year, and we'll see how it goes from there. But hey, we're in this season. We're not going to talk about next season, Daniel. I'll give you to the rest of the year to prove to me that you are who we say they are, and this wasn't a flash in the pan. And hey, like I said, I'm going to stay on my side of the line for this season at least, and see what happens. And then next year we can reevaluate, or we can retalk, and we can go from there. But I've staked my claim on this side. I actually had a conversation with somebody. It was funny. Shout out to Zion. He had a conversation. He brought up something. And shout out to the guys on Lou and all that guys. 11-6 is possibly possible. So keep that dream alive. Keep that candle burning. I'm going to say 8-9 wins, maybe outside the playoffs, maybe wild card, but lot can happen. Hey, the NFL is the NFL. They figure it out eventually. So hopefully they haven't figured us out yet. We're 4-1. But like Zion said, we had a conversation that if he's doing this with Daniel, imagine he gets a guy that he, can get from Jump Street that just needs a little refining. How elite will that be? It's kind of crazy to think about that. I know that's not a lot of what people are thinking about, but I wanted to give him a shout out because that was an interesting take that was made. Like, if you get a quarterback that's already kind of got the same skill set as Daniel, what can you do with him? Can you make him better? Can you make him more elite? Like hypothetically speaking, Giants get Anthony Richardson in the second round, right? Guy's got immense talent, a world of talent, right? You bring him in, you let him get groomed by Daboll, you assign Jones, right, for another year, you let him go under, and then you let them battle it out, right? And the talent will rise to the top, right? And you'll see what you can do. And if next year, you deem that Anthony Richardson's your guy, he can throw it because the kid's got talent. The kid, Anthony Richardson, whether people like it or not, has got talent. He can run, he can throw, he's got it. The problem is he's like a Josh Allen. He's got it's just a giant ball of clay. Who's going to be able to mold him? And you're looking at what Daboll is doing with an already kind of molded Daniel Jones. Jones is going to be he's going to be a Tannehill, a Garoppolo, that type of quarterback. A guy that you can win with when you have a good defense. Who hopefully won't make the critical mistake to cost you the game. That's where I think his ceiling is. Maybe Alex Smith. But I will say this. There's always a chance to an upgrade. So that was a thought process I had. I also thought, hey, the Chiefs made a move with Alex Smith. Alex Smith was a solid quarterback for them, and they still made the move to Patrick Mahomes, kept Alex Smith for another year, and then gave the reins to Mahomes. So there's always a chance that the Giants could say, hey, listen, Daniel, we're going to keep you another year, grow your value. We're going to bring in a kid here to compete and learn the system because Tyrod's, a walking injury, and Davis Webb is probably not really a quarterback we want to grow with long term. So maybe they bring in a guy next year, let's say Anthony Richardson, and they do a Kansas City, and they say, hey, listen, you be here, you get us to the playoffs, we'll build a team around you, and then when the guy Anthony Richardson's ready, you come in. I mean, they could do what the 49ers did, the same thing too, but the 49ers picked a guy who hadn't played football in 2 years. That was a dumb prospect. They probably should have went with somebody else. But hey, I've talked enough. 4-1, victory Monday. We won't see this team till Wednesday because they probably got a couple days off. Revenge tour coming back. Let's see what Wink's got in store for Lamar Jackson. Should be fun the rest of the way. Giant fans, we have a season. Hallelujah. We're not out of it yet, and let's keep it rolling.